Welcome, seekers and visionaries, to Oracle Mountain Chats. Here on this sacred virtual peak, we gather, a space for oracles to share their wisdom, their visions, and their craft. It all began with a calling I could not ignore. One day, within a vision, I held this conch shell in my hands, and as I blew its resonant note into the world, I felt its vibration ripple across unseen realms. It was a summons, a signal to fellow oracles scattered near and far. I saw that we were on a mountain, vast and towering, reaching into the heavens. At its base, the world buzzed with life, people moving, creating, searching. Yet at the summit, there was stillness, clarity, and a circle of light. There, oracles stood, their gaze focused both outward and inward. They spoke of the energies they felt, the shifts they saw, and the whispers of the unseen. They weren't above the world, they were its witnesses and its guides. From this vision, OracleFest was born, a celebration of connection, insight, and the timeless wisdom that flows through us all. Here we gather as oracles, to share the visions Spirit whispers to us, to speak of the energy currents flowing through nature and humanity, and to help guide those who seek answers in a world that often feels lost. So grab a seat, breathe in the mountain air, and join us as we begin today's chat. Whether it's an energy reading, a conversation about our craft, our path, or simply sharing a perspective on the world below, this is where we wait for more oracles to join us on the mountain. What wisdom will the mountain bring us today? Let's find out together. Step into this sacred space where the wisdom of the ages converges with the questions of the present. Okay, so lovely to be back on Oracle Mountain again. I was on earlier this week and I get to be on again and then again on Sunday. So I'm always happy when I get to spend more time here because it's really such a precious virtual space. I was just explaining it to this new OracleFest luminary, Anna, who I'm going to introduce in a moment. Do you go by Anna, more in that pronunciation, by the way? Is it Anna? Yeah, I like that. Okay, beautiful. I just want to make sure I get it right off the top here. So we were just talking about this because I thought, um, when I introduce new people now to the Oracle Mountain Vision, it just feels like it's had so much life already, but yet I know that there's so much that is unknown to all of us or that still needs to be built or brought through. So it's a very exciting time because it's like we can really see progress, I think almost of stages of building a house and we see everything has dug but we're not really sure what's going on, but now we've seen the foundation and you're starting to see lines and divisions coming into how exciting. Anyway, so I'm welcoming Anna Stauffenberg here today to Oracle Mountain, and in such a lovely way. We were introduced to each other through the Psychics community and have sort of just drifted and floated by each other. And it feels really special to be inviting you in for the Illumination Podium upcoming on the 21st. And holding the pillar of light language, which felt so key and so important to illumination, that we bring in light, and light language being way more wider spread, common, becoming much more known, but still so unknown to so many people. It feels so important for us to be talking about it. So welcome, Anna.
Thank you, my dear. It's wonderful to be in this space with you. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And so I think there's something that is really interesting about light language and energy channeling in general, because I think the reason you also call yourself an energy channeler would be that there are probably multiple things that are beside or around light language that aren't quite it, that probably you're also channeling. Is that why you choose this wider term, because you're not only a light language channeler?
Yes. So, do general energy healings as well. And then there's light language, which is, I do incorporate that into the healings. But then channeling, I also call in different collectives, and that'll be like an English verbal channeling. But they also do, healings and attunements and things like that. So it is very different from the light language. It's separate, if you will.
Right.
Channeling, right? Whatever you're calling in, the energy that's flowing. But yeah, that's why there's that little bit of a distinction between the light language and how that comes out as an energetic frequency, as toning, as hand signals, versus a trance channel that I might go in if I'm calling in other the other things.
Right, right. And so I love this because sometimes what people fear, I think, in their spiritual journey is like not knowing what their particular thing is. And obviously, you've found multiple ways of translating your unique expression or opening your unique expression, however you're going to like see that to allow things through. I always see it as allowing things through us. And so then you've opened that up in multiple different directions. That way, as we say, it's like people have different access points. So whatever feels most comfortable, maybe for them to begin with, is like, is that what you find? They just go to the thing they're more familiar with or more curious about, even?
Yeah, I find, I mean, especially in the beginning, if it's somebody that's totally new, I might not start them out with light language. I'll do like
Yeah.
the energy first where it's silent and you've got the music and, and they can get used to that. And then I might bring in a light language. And I might even choose, based on the energy and the frequency, what type of light language, because there can be, there's different, there's different levels, I would say, and not levels of intensity maybe, or how it sounds. So some people maybe need like a little bit of a bridge, a gentle one to start, and then maybe be introduced to some of the other ones that might be more in your face. So
Right.
there's different frequencies that you allow in. Some people are ready and they're like, I'm ready for a channeled session. I'm ready for the light language. Let's go. And some people are brand new and are like, I just, gentle introduction. Right. So it just depends on what the person is in their journey and what they're ready for. But yeah.
And so I love this because I kind of think about recently I've made the connection, drawn it now to say, oh yeah, obviously light language in many people's understandings would be like different starseed light beings and the language that gets associated with those as it would get translated in human vocal cords, right? The best we can in bodies that are human. And so it's like our way of like remembering or something, this place that we can connect to, these places maybe, or spaces we could connect to in non-ordinary. And so then the trance channeling, would you say that is of like a similar realm, or does it feel like a different, like, I guess it's a hard way to ask that question, but I guess I'm trying to help those people who are like on the inside trying to figure out.
Well, I mean, gosh, I'm pretty new to all of this. I was a teacher for 20, 25 years and I didn't know any of this. I maybe meditated a little bit because I was, a ball of stress. But so this is relatively new to me. It started for me a couple of years ago, where I opened up to the light language. And I see it as on so many different levels. Like, yes, the light beings and the Pleiadians or the Lemurians or,
Mm-hmm.
the frequencies that we pull in, the fairies, the dragons, all these fun things. But I also see it as like a soul frequency. So I can, tune in, like if I tune in for you and I did one for you, it would be completely different what I pulled in than what I'd pull in for maybe the next person. So it's like that soul remembering, like you said, that soul resonance. What is that
Mm-hmm.
soul that we're going for? And like if there's 30 people on the call, there's 30 different light languages that come through, right?
Mm-hmm.
To your question about the difference between the channeling, that's a completely different state that I'm in compared
Mm-hmm.
to what I'm light language. I can just be walking on the street just doing the light language and just having a grand old time, like it's just at this point it's an integral part of me, like it just flows naturally. And it's just, it's like speaking English, or I'm German, so I speak German and Chinese. It flows in that kind of a way. Whereas trance channeling is very different for me. Like it's just a completely different feeling when I'm in that space, and my manner, everything changes and comes through in a very different way than it does with light language. It's a different kind of shift. And I can,
So
in the beginning, light language was like that for me too. Like all of a sudden it would come through when I was driving, and I was like, whew, I had to pull over and like let whatever wanted to come through, because I was very open and I was totally okay with anything that wants to come through. Love and light, and
mhm.
have my intentions and my boundaries and all that beautiful stuff. But in the beginning, it was very visceral for me, the light language. And now if I'm doing like a healing for somebody, I'll feel the energy flowing through and everything, but it's not the way it was in the beginning. Whereas with
Mhm.
trance channel, I go into that space, it's very different, and it's very different.
It's It's so awesome getting to talk to so many people with different practices and different ways of doing it. I find I'm especially treated getting to do all these Oracle Mountain chats with everyone. Like this is, I think, episode 31. So that's like 30 people all activating some part of my mind and understanding, because we're all meeting each other in this same place. And in my work, how I see that right now is like when doing shamanic work and sitting in place of a spirit in like a shamanic healing circle, it's very much like that trance channeling. I'm like, suddenly I've got a bit of a lower voice, or someone asks me to sing this ancient song of the grandmothers, and I'm like, where did that come from? Like that. And singing to me feels very much in a certain way can be in that almost that trance channeling way, because it's sort of like, whoa, we're embodied in some thing is wanting to move its way through me and hold space within me or something like of that nature. And it makes a lot of sense that light language is like a really finely, like divinely bright version of your communication on a soul level. Like that actually makes a lot of sense, that then you're opening and clearing and talking to the person. That person's is reflecting through. It reminds me of a sound healing friend that I have who says that when he goes, he plays didgeridoo, and when he goes up to people, it feels like there's a communication and he knows. And I could tell this one session, I was just really lit up. I was super, I don't know, full moon or something. I was like going there to do work, and he did not expect it, because sometimes people just go to there to relax, right? And I was like going in there for some deep healing and visioning. He was unawares. And so that's a very open class. He was playing the didgeridoo, and I could tell at a certain point where things had stopped and shifted in their healing. Like I almost like I had a very visceral sense of it working its way through me, and him tuning into the next place of resistance that needed releasing or loosening up. And it was so activating, because I was like, wow, I really understand this person is taking care of me in this sense energetically, and that I'm influencing its ability to rise. He was like, lots of different sounds came out in that time. I went, I am not surprised, because it felt like it shifted through lots of different things in me. But other people, it was like a little more static. They needed to meet that. It maybe took them a long time to meet that energy. And that's like our ability to receive at that time. That's because I went in, like you're saying, I was like, hey, dams open, like bridges up. Everyone just come on through.
Love that. Yeah, it
It
does.
comes,
The meeting of where people are at, right? There, it's and some people that have heard it, the first time, they're like, oh, I feel like I know what you're saying without knowing what you're saying, right? So there's always an element where I have to share where I'm like, don't try and understand this. This is not a to be translated word for word kind of a situation, right? But they'll come out of it and they'll be like, I understood on a soul level what you were saying. I couldn't tell you what you said, but I know that I understood, like a deep, like you said, that going back to that remembering, that deep understanding. But yeah, those shifts as they open, it's a wonderful thing to see unfold for people, whether it's a didgeridoo or, whatever you, right? Like however you get there, but it's a wonderful thing to watch unfold. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's got me buzzing in a good way here, because I'm also thinking this is like just so our needed medicine. It's like this is just so, because it's so similar in all these different. There's something very core concept about simply allowing yourself to channel openly some frequency that feels. That's why people talk about high vibration communities, is because there is this higher vibrational state with some of this toning music, some of this healing, sound bowls, and light language being one of these sounds. It's a sonic frequency in many ways. And also it's an energy and a light frequency, the same way people celebrate Reiki as I would say, an energy frequency. And, you could say that's a certain form or way that people feel. A lot of people put a lot of energy into the bucket of Reiki. People know what that's like now. And so I'm excited for more and more thoughts and energy to get put into these extra buckets, all the buckets. Yeah, so that it makes more sense to everyone. Because I really, what I love about the way you're talking about it, it also helps it become more approachable and like more accessible. So you were like, okay, it's working its way through me, and like you were aware of it. What allowed you to break the seal of Like, I'm curious about the initial moment. I feel like I keep needing to ask you about it.
No, that's wonderful. I think for me, it was a general process. Like I went from, being the kindergarten teacher for so many years and doing all these things. And then I went through, like how you get Reiki attuned and you get it, you get your certification and you learn how to do an energy healing. So I went through a similar program. And from there opened up, to the frequencies flowing through and, things just kind of unfolded in that way. And a friend of mine who was in the course all of a sudden started speaking light language. And I was like, what is this? To me, it was like, like, wow, like powerful. I was like, that's awesome, and I was just like, well, I want that too. And so then I started listening to light language and I was like, okay, this is fascinating. And then I started doing toning and I actually, former lifetime as a teenager, was in a play and I did a musical and I'd promised myself when I was a kid and I watched Grease. And I was like, I'm gonna, if it's ever in a school play, I'll go and try out, right? Well, senior year, it decided it wanted to be the play, and I was like, oh no, and no acting experience, nothing. But I'm like, I'm just gonna go try out anyway. So I got one of the lead roles, and but it ended up being like a really deep learning experience. But it also was terrifying because I was afraid of my voice. I was afraid of everything. Like 16, afraid of all the a little bit older by then. I was almost 18, but all the things that are happening at that age. And so I realized that for me to be able to step into something like that, I had to work on that. Right. So that was an element of myself that I had to go back and do deep work on. So I went and took singing lessons and did all the things and was toning and doing all these things. But as I was doing the singing lessons, I did some deep energy work on myself. And I was like, okay, I'm remembering those times and I'm thinking I'm clearing through those. So I would clear those, but I'd also step into the frequency of my future self that was able to do this already. And so that was like a daily thing that I was stepping into. I was like, okay, I'm releasing all of my fears around speaking, around my voice, about, whatever it is there, not speaking my truth, being scared to speak because it's going to be wrong, or all of those, beliefs that I had about myself. And I was really deeply working on that. And then also that element of stepping into that future version of myself that was able to do it. So that frequency of it, I was pulling that frequency in and I was just like fully embodying it as I was doing these singing lessons. And I'd say about 2 months later, it popped. And that was just, that was how it worked for me. Right. But now that I speak it, I can actually activate it in others as well. So the more that they hear me speaking it, they also end up kind of, if they're interested in it, they'll start speaking it as well, or they'll notice while I'm doing the healing, they hear it in their head. And then they're like, and then it's just a matter of vocalizing it. Right. So it was a matter of me getting comfortable with this space. Right. Like it's very activated right now. Right. Just talking about it, it's like getting very activated. So it's being comfortable with that space and being comfortable with voicing it, because light language, like I didn't grow up with, with all of these things, right? I grew up in a very 3D way, go to school, get the job. And so that for me was a major shift to be able to step into something like that, expressing in that way. And then it became another shift of letting other people hear it and what they might me as, right? Like who are you? And then I did a YouTube channel and I was like, oh. And then, I had a friend, she was like, you have to post. And I was like, then you deal with that other layer of, okay, now I'm sharing this, with the world. It's not just mine, right? It's not mine. It's, to be shared. And so that was another layer that I worked through. But yeah, it was definitely energetic. It was releasing, my thoughts and beliefs about what it could be. And if I could or couldn't, or, all the different things that kind of layered in there with it. But now it's just like but of course, but of course, this is a part of me, of everybody, right? It is that essence. It's not just I'm calling in the Pleiadians or I'm calling in dragon frequencies. It's our soul essence. It's soul essence. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, if there's anything that I'm gleaning from all of the wisdom and insights from all these people that I'm, again, grateful and blessed to get to receive all these little kind of activations from, is that there's like a lot of hope for us in this world, that there's a lot of these things coming online for a reason. And a lot of people remembering at like a really rapid pace. Like I think it is a really beautiful and exciting time, because usually we look back at like really dense times, and then whatever floats out of it is like some really radical, awesome stuff. And so, you know, for all the people who are like really experiencing a lot of density in their life, you doing this work of just shedding your own limitations and your own, you know, hangups or beliefs based on what we would have been passed down to us is able to heal like our collective and the generations, and the speed to which people do it when they expose themselves to like energy that has been cultivated by people who really feel devoted to clearing these fields and really supporting positive and lifting spirits on earth. I mean, I have chills saying that because I really do feel into the reality of like how powerful all of this work is. And when we are on this individual level, I just want to recognize you for being a part of that whole, like all of the people. Literally, I see everyone like lighting candles all over the world, but it's like we're in our own rooms, right? And so that's what's so beautiful about knowing all people's stories, because they don't have to be some like extreme situation. We had a beautiful extreme situation, a near death experience as part of Eric Taylor's awakening that we heard about earlier this week. And then your awakening of like slowly, subtly shifting and loosening up the layers of conditioning is still just as powerful, because it's all of us having that candle lit in our own rooms of our own caves and then coming out to share at the fire. Like I don't know. I just had to have a moment, a little soapbox moment for how beautiful healing paths are.
It is different. Everybody does go, you know, and I've had some other wild experiences. And
I'm sure
for
you
me, like this kind of a thing, right? Where it's just like, oh, and now we're here. Now we're okay. Now we're here, you know, and it's been a wild journey. But
So
yeah.
here's a good question then. This kind of, it's like a sneaky, I'm like, ooh, kind of opens something up for me to be. I wonder then when you had, this is a common experience. People have this like spiritual awakening and it's like zing, zing, zing. Everything like lights up, and then like as they settle
Mm-hmm.
back into like 3D reality, being, oh my gosh, it was difficult to stay at that frequency, or you know. So when light language started coming through, did it feel as though, okay, you're getting exposed to something like real clear and real potent, and so then did you have, yeah, I guess what I want to say is like, did you have difficulty translating that into full 3D exist? I don't, you know, what I'm trying to ask about that.
I was already pretty deep in a lot of it. Like I had different layers of shifts. So one of my first ones was very deep, but it still took me 6 years to get to this whole, I'm doing energy healings now, and I'm, you know, doing light language. And that was, you know, it was just kind of like that.
Gradual.
And then came the verbal English channeling, because that was what I really wanted. I was like, I wanted to be, my teacher told me I was a channel, right? So they were like gifts or whatever that he talked about. And then I was like a channel, but I just felt like I wasn't really a channel until I could verbally, you know, produce something that was not me talking like this, right? So that was my definition of it. But there were so many other shifts that came before that. So it was exciting for me, the light language. And I felt like I'd reached a certain level. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I've got this, you know, like how we still have our process, right? So in that stage, I was still, and even now, right? You still have things that you're working through, but at that stage, let's see. Remind me the question, love. I got
Yeah.
sidetracked.
No, it's, you're going on a really good track. It's not a side track, it's an on track. Like we have multiple on tracks. You're not off track.
This is the thing, right? I had like 10 different stories going into one. I was like, let's weave
I
these together.
I
Weave
felt
this.
that. Totally. No, I felt it. That's exactly. It's always, there's always space for that here. None of us have brains that work normally on this channel. That's like a high expectation for anyone, I think. What's normal. So, what I was curious about is like, do you get, because we're talking about sort of the process of spiritual awakening, right? And like how, you know, there's just something people grapple with that I'm sure we all do grapple with, which is like the desire and craving to stay in a certain place, because it gets exciting when you're first lit up to states that are, but for you it was a bit more measured because you were like, I know this is an access area that like I feel is going to open for me, and you're pursuing it really for also the like learning and the work, because you're a teacher. You're like, as soon as you're learning something, you're figuring out how you're going to teach it, right? So then it's like a much more gradual process, because you're like, I need to understand all about it in order to do something with it. And that totally makes sense as well. Do you resonate? Do you feel like that's part of how you approach it?
Definitely, like 3 years later, I'm like, so can I do a light language teaching course now? Like that's of course the next thing that's already, buzzing in the background, right? So,
Yeah.
which I thought that I would do, right? Oh, I've never thought any of this. This was not a part of, the plan, if you will, right? I didn't have a plan. But then that first awakening of realizing, all the mind stuff and everything that I was carrying around and shedding that was the first layer where I was able to be like, okay, stop it with the drinking, stop it with the smoking, stop it with all the negativity, stop it with all of the, the things that I was going through, the victim mentality that I had and all of that, and step out of that. And, then it was working on the body, and then it was working on this. And I was on like this such a, like you said, that high of like, wow, this is what life is supposed to be like. Where have I been the past, 2 decades? What was that? Right. It was all a part of the process. Right. But then there was a dip because I took it all very seriously. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, journey. And I took it very seriously. And then I was like, well, there's still something wrong with me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I had into the spiritual side of things. I was meditating a bit, but I wasn't really so full into it yet. I was more worried about like healing the physical and the mental side of things. And then once it got into the, okay, I'm doing this energy healing work, and now I'm doing the spiritual side of things, and I'm going to this light level, going to this channeling, and what's the next level, and how do I keep it there? And I think I kind of, I also had those expectations from my teacher. It was like, oh, you're on the island and everything is perfect and beautiful and you're manifesting everything and everything is perfect. And life still happens, parents still pass away. Like my dad died 2 years ago. And then there's a process of, of going through that, right? That you're, not prepared for. It was a sudden thing. And, life still happens, but there's that daily frequency of being in that, even if not every day is this beautiful, oh my gosh, I've unlocked a new light language, or I've, like something magical has happened. It's learning how to, I think, integrate the two, right? I'm still me, right? I'm still this person. And there is that joy around the work that I do, right? There's that. But I no longer have that expectation of I have to be at this extreme high all the time. I've found that I'm more integrated in that way, that it's not an expectation I have of myself. If I have that expectation of I've got to be on this high vibe all the time, I find that expectation in and of itself kind of, just for me personally at this time, I find that kind of, it can be unrealistic at times. So
Yeah, it's
there's
like an added pressure. It's like an unneeded pressure as well, right? Because it's naturally trying to find its way through you already. It already is.
yeah. So it's, for me, it's like it's this kind of a process where it's like, okay, it's up and down, it's a swirly motion, and it's going this way and that way, and it's like, oh, there's something to explore. Okay, coming back up here. And I think
Mhm.
it's, generally speaking, like if I look back 5 years ago, I'm a completely different human being. It doesn't mean I don't experience the sadness or, or fear of some kind, or like I'm exploring new avenues now, right? And I'm like, okay, well, whew, let's break through those barriers. There's always just a different level. So I think I've adjusted my not my expectation, because I think that is beautiful, and I know there are people that can stay in that high vibe, but I think it's more of enjoying the process, the flow of things, rather than seeking that expectation of, oh, I have to be in perfect manifesting. No, sometimes I just want to be on the couch and just be, right. So I think I've just shifted a little bit in how I see that, where it's not, oh, I'm lowering my expectations. It's just, no, I'm more integrating and being in that way, while bringing in the beautiful, frequencies, and being in that space. But I don't feel like I always have to be buzzing and floaty, and I don't know, maybe that's just a part of my journey, where I'm like shifting into, whatever it's shifting into. But I feel like it's more enjoying the process rather than like I must now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think when a lot of people do that gripping, like that fist close, it's almost like what I see is that it's like water. It just goes like right through the fingers, and we actually needed to hold it as a cup and like allow ourselves to get a sense of like how much is there. And then okay, we maybe need a second hand to hold all that water that you're getting over time, and like adapting. I often I think just because I'm silly, I often use the like analogy of feeling like I'm just a constantly naked hermit crab, just going from one shell, then yeah. Every time I find a new one, I bust the next one open. And I go, wow, that was uncomfortable. It's like, Kate, you were there for like a day. Relax, kid, slow down. But I've learned to just really enjoy and appreciate some. I mean, it's the Aries energy. Sometimes I'm just running like, this ram through the world, just doing my thing. We have to kind of be like compassionate to ourselves. So that's what it sounds like to me, is that you've become just a little bit more understanding of like your own natural cycles and appreciative of them. Whereas often when we're starting out on our journey, that love light kind of goal forces us to sort of push away what feels like reality, and we can actually create way more resistance to what is just uncomfortable about living, because can't be comfortable every day, can't be nice every day. That's We couldn't appreciate it if we had that. That's what they say.
And, so I mean, it's just, and I know that this is just this stage, right? Like, because there have been so many, right, different adjustments and different movings through. So, like you said, that compassion for self, I think, is something that's really come through. And sure, there can still be those moments of like, oh, like you said, when you're looking for that next shell, that whole like, oh, what's happening here? This is hi everyone, I'm exposed. And then you find your new place and you're like, oh, there we go. Right. And I think it's a part of it is in enjoying that process, being more open to that, rather than the constant feeling like I'm having to, okay, now I've reached here and now I'm going to the next level. Hey, relax this one for a moment and enjoy this one. And,
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
there'll be that growth and then you'll come to that level. So I think that's where I'm at this very moment, is just
I
kind
love
of
that.
traveling through that process. And like you said, like when a resistance comes, just like, opening through and going to that the next space, wherever that goes. Yeah.
Totally, totally. Yeah, we're all doing the best we can do to kind of do that. It's great. It's like, it's so funny how you start out on kind of, I think a lot of people start out on their journeys thinking you just clear level at some point, where like, and like, it's just this ongoing video game joke of like, there's bigger bosses and confusing, and sometimes now there's multiple. I've never dealt with multiple bosses at the same time, I just think, yeah, it is really, I was laughing today with one of my friends about just, it's so funny the way that we get to go through our lives in these patterns, but it does get better over time if you let it, which is amazing. And that sounds like exactly the journey, and it's soft. And if there's anything I have learned from ancestors and also elders, but especially ancestors, that they just drop everything when they go, right? They don't have any of their, you know earthly business around with them, and so they want us enjoying our lives and actually enjoying the journey, as those fortitudes will tell us to do. But like, it really is our highest mission to actually enjoy. And it's such a trap. I'm gonna have just like this one moment, because I feel like this is coming through now to say for some reason. But I just got back from visiting the US, and a lot of people were telling me not to go before I went, because it's a tense political time, and I'm Canadian, and so they thought, oh, we're not sure about you crossing the border and coming back, and we want you to come back okay. And everything was completely peachy and totally fine and really idyllic and actually unbelievably magical the whole time I was there, which is great. And I knew that was going to be the case. And there were challenges, but I was like really quite enjoying them. It's fine. It was like adding some surprise and some mystery. I don't know. There was something fine about it with me. But that's so unusual in today's day and age. Like, that's such a rebellious move, especially for me as like a woman under 35, to like not just be stressing my mind out with trying to figure it all out and trying to make sense of whatever our world has been shifting into these last few years, which feels so drastic and different. It feels very rapidly changing. And I feel so grateful to be able to like, so I just want to have a celebration moment, is kind of what I feel like, because I feel so grateful. Like, how amazing is it, we've each and all who are listening to this have found some way to give ourselves hope and resolve in a climate that actually on the face of it looks pretty dire, and is often spun to us as like an end of the world type of existence that we're in many ways. Like, that is a lot of the narrative and the undercurrent of like our media. So I just wanted to thank you for just existing naturally and authentically on this, because I do think that's part of our healing work in the world, is for more people to simply be themselves and to believe in good things and to take it easy on ourselves as we go through life to enjoy it. That is genuinely a potent rebellion in healing.
Oh, I love that. It is. It's that being gentle with the self, right? That
Yeah.
was actually in one of my first awakening moment things. That was the word I heard. Like even in my it was, oh gosh, I could talk about that for like hours, but that was the word right there. It was the word gentle. Because even in my striving to be like, it was a whole moment, but in the moment I heard that voice again that I hadn't heard since I was a kid. And it was gentle. And I was like, oh, right. Because again,
Oops.
I was
Yeah.
and the go through and do the things, right? And it was like gentle. And I was like, oh, I think I heard, and it only sat with me for like, I think I got it for like 10 minutes. And then I immediately started running again, like literally through Hong Kong streets, like running to get to where I needed to go. But yeah, the gentle.
That's really beautiful. And yeah, of all the words for me to use, that's so precious. I love that. Gentleness has been a part of my journey as well with deer medicine. There's been quite a few times deer have shown up to remind me to soften and allow myself to be gentle, to be kind, and yeah, to treat myself as precious, delicate, fragile baby deer. That's what we all are. We're all every part of this beautiful earth. It's so great. Is there anything else that you want to make sure you share? Like, how do people reach out if they like listening to you and they like your approach and they think that you'd be great to help them with getting into light language or wherever they want to go next on their spiritual channeling journey?
So there's the YouTube channel. It's Cosmic Studio with Anna. And then there's it's that same Cosmic Studio with Anna for the Instagram and my Facebook page. But yeah, I'll be more active moving forward. But there's things there for you that you can get started with.
I love it.
And I offer different circles, like I offer a healing circle and a heart and soul communication circle. So all those links will be in there in that YouTube as well. That'll have all those links to join in on those groups. If that's something that you're ready to explore, then we can.
Beautiful. I
Yeah.
love that. Well, I love this is like one of my secret missions, not so very secret now that I'm sharing it here about OracleFest, which is that there always be a percentage of people who are coming to our stage as newer speakers that for some reason have drifted into our awareness and that there's a feeling behind them and what they might get up to, which is not to say of any pressure or expectation. And I don't think there's a certain way I'm designing anything of what you need to do. I'm very glad that you're here, and I think there's a good reason for you being here for whatever that is on your journey. I would love to see you more. And I'm excited for the Oracle Fest folks to experience your light language, because I got to experience a little bit before this call. We didn't end up going into it on this call because I feel it's good for people to experience it in the container of Oracle Fest. Because it's going to be right after our live readings. So I'm very excited by that because I think it's going to serve as a really nice integrating, kind of maybe activating as well, time for us. And then I'll close it out with probably some drumming, most likely. That's usually how I close out an Oracle Fest event. Usually people at some point just say, we want to hear you sing or do something with the drum, and I can't help myself. So I'm excited to share space with you there and to see you at Illumination Podium, to welcome any of your connections and communities as well.
Thank you. This has been lovely. Lovely to get to know you and to share the space with you. So thank you for
Yeah,
that.
my pleasure.
Excited.
Thanks. Yeah, me too. Thanks for joining us here on Oracle Mountain. And we'll see everyone on the 21st of June if you're watching this in real time. And if not, keep an eye out for the next event. Maybe Anna will be with us at the large Oracle Fest in January, or any other special events we have going on in the future. And I'll also mention that the Star All Access Pass for anyone who's looking to join at that big Oracle Fest online, that will be your best deal because you're able to access all the events as the year goes on leading up to that. So for anyone who's confused why that option exists, it's like, hey, we're going to do this really big event, and this kind of makes it more measured out over time. You can just join us for the next year. You're in on everything online that Oracle Fest does. So I'm very excited for the space to grow. It's always so exciting to me. It feels like things have woken back up on the mountain again, and I'll probably do another vision update and tell you all some of the updates from Mount Shasta too. So I will tell you as well about that, Anna, in time. And for now, we'll just see everyone later and hope to see everyone on the 21st.